Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, Umber Rays, and today we're going to be taking a look at Garland. It's time for his review. Let's begin. So Garland is one of the more iconic Final Fantasy villains, mainly just because ever since really Dissidia came along, Chaos has been kind of the forefront as one of the biggest baddies of the bads in the Final Fantasy series, or at least that's the kind of the way it comes off to me. So getting an actual 5-star version of Garland in the game was pretty good news to me because I really like, the villains. The villains are fun to have on your team because normally you only get to fight them, and Garland is particularly a really cool design character. I mean, yeah, it was generic back at the time, but I don't know. I think there's enough in his design that he looks pretty cool regardless. So, just get totally off rail. There's something that was even cooler though. It was finding out that we could essentially earn him only, as it turned out, playing through the event. This is the first 5-star unit really in the game that we've been able to get from a Mog King event that hasn't been through like tickets or something like that. And even then, that's RNG. Yeah, anybody who plays Brave Exvius right now can get themselves a guaranteed 7-star copy of Garland, and potentially with his own TMR and Super TMR too. So the question is he any good? Well, first I want to show off his animations, but I specifically want to show off this, his Limit Burst, because there's a lot of times where I appreciate really cool work that is put into the sprites and characters of this game. But really, take a look at Garland right now when he turns into Chaos. Okay, that's pretty cool at a 5-star, but let's take a look at the 6-star. Oh, that looks cooler. You can probably see where this is going. Take a look at the 7-star. That is really awesome looking. We've seen a lot of design changes in between, the space sprites, but it doesn't feel like we see that much of a design change between the Limit Burst, and here it just looks really, really cool with the flaming wings, man. It's probably one of my favorite looking non-CG Limit Bursts. Chaos is pretty iconic, and getting to see him here is really, really cool. But let's talk about Garland, because Garland is essentially, in all intents and purposes, an offensive character. And he's a pretty good little free DPS to get your hands on. Let's keep that in mind, though, throughout this. First of all, his TMR is a 50% attack up, 25% limit burst fill rate. Nothing super incredible, but a 50% attack without a condition isn't bad, and the extra limit burst fill rate is nice too. So it's generally a really good, just a good, solid TMR. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's like Sweet Luca's TMR that we saw, in February. But, yeah, I think this is still okay, especially for what is essentially a free one that you can earn by playing the event. Next up is this Super TMR, which is a 32 attack, heavy armor, with 48 defense and 35 spirit, as well as 5% MP recovery per turn. I like this. Why? It's a high attack armor, which is kind of important for just getting, some powerful characters. The MP recovery, though, is particularly nice because some offensive characters have problems regenerating enough MP, and if you can get a high attack armor with some MP recovery on it, that's just good. That's just a bonus. That's a really nice bonus, and it can help your DPS survive longer, or go longer in the fight. Limit Burst is pretty damn cool. Let's just be honest, 32 crystals, and for a 7-star maxed out, there is a self 50% limit burst damage up for 1 turn, AoE 1 hit, 2000% physical attack with ignoring 50% defense, enables access to Chaos Slicer for 4 turns. I really like just the limit burst spam idea that Garland kind of has going. If you can get this guy just constantly doing limit bursts, I mean, his 2000% ignoring 50% defense is already pretty strong, but in his kit he also has a limit burst damage up. And then, if he's just spamming his limit burst every turn, I'm curious if it can do a fair amount of damage, or what the damage output is actually about. So what is Chaos Slicer? It is a 7+1 extra hit, so AT chaining, I'm guessing. Backloaded physical hit damage. Non-elemental, which is fine because Garland can imbue himself with the dark element. He also has some pretty good dark debuffs in his kit, so Chaos Slicer just generally pretty strong. Excuse me. What other passives does he have? Well, he has some Man-Eater, he has bonuses for equipping greatswords and helmets, which is good. Human Killer, I already said. Dark Resistance, he has boosts when hit for attack and defense when his HP falls below 80%. And he's a pretty tanky offensive character. Like, he's got pretty darn good defense as well as HP too. So he's, you know, pretty survivable. He is a true dual hand character, not true dual wield. That hurts him a little bit, but I don't think it's too terribly much. Also, he has a couple of ways of actually giving himself triple cast, mainly from counters, which is, you know, pretty neat. Blah, 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 getting on with it. He has some modifiers up. And then we get into his kit. And his kit is something that I like for a couple of reasons. One, in terms of if you're a new player, one of the most difficult things can be just getting the elemental coverage you need to complete a ton of trials. Well, Garland has that in spades. He has earth, fire, water, wind, and darkness, not to mention as well lightning. So he has a really big range of elements to cover, and that's pretty nice. Earthquake is 8 hits, fire is 10 hits, water is 12, and wind is 12. So the water is actually flood-based chaining, which is pretty cool. That's another flood chainer. Tornado, or the wind one is probably tornado chaining. Fire, 10 hits, might be Stardust Ray. Earth is 8 hits, so it should be AT chaining. The rest of his kit, he has some defense ignoring attacks. Again, he has Dark Spiral, which debuffs for 75%. For Dark Resistance for 3 turns, AoE. That's pretty good to have AoE. The big thing is Darkness Ring, which is AT chaining guaranteed. That 40 attack is just 8 hits. He gives himself an attack boost of 100% for 5 turns and adds Dark to his attacks for 5 turns. That's pretty cool. His Lightning and Fire ones are just multi-hits, but they're not overly strong, so I'm not super crazy about them. He also has a stronger version, Chaos Impact, which is his 54, which is just 8 hits, it's backloaded damage, you know, once you put the dark element on it. This is pretty standard nowadays. In his 7-star, though, first of all, he has Feral Movement of Chaos, a 6-turn cooldown, available turn 1, 200% attack and defense boost for 5 turns, gives himself a limit burst access, enables access to triple casting for 4 turns, and recovery effect of 40%. Just really, really cool ability to have. Gives himself a limit burst, gives himself a big boost so he can do a lot more damage. Revenge of Chaos is his next one. That one. Revenge of Chaos is 8 hits, backloaded damage, ignoring defense, 3-turn cooldown, available turn 3. Pretty strong. And to say the least, and Chain and Circle. This one is actually really cool. Remove all status effects from one enemy, 90% status ailment chance, 70% break AoE for 3 turns, and a 90% chance to stop for 2 turns on a 20-turn cooldown. This ability is great for Arena. This ability is great for just, if you don't have a debuffer yet, it's great for Dispel. Garland has a pretty utility kit. Out of a lot of characters that we see, especially free characters, Garland has a way of doing a lot of different things. He can be a breaker, he can be a debuffer, although it's pretty, you know, those abilities you can only use, or that ability you can only use very rarely. His main thing is DPS, and he has a lot of different things. I think it's also particularly nice that he has various elements. Makes good for just clearing, you know, different things in the game because they're not magic, but they are elemental. He has some elemental spells, but those aren't super exciting. So let's just check out these abilities first. Also, the 8-hit Earth probably is Quake, now that I think about it. just pop that off and wait for your next turn. Don't think I fired off the wind there. Didn't seem like it's going. Let's just see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty tornado spell, to be totally honest. And now let's just check out his fire, and we actually do have a chaining partner here, which is really funny because it's Warrior of Light. We're going to try this because Warrior of Light has a 10-hit frame window on one of his abilities. Let me just double check to make sure I have the right one. Don't want to look silly. 45. I was going to choose the other one. That's why we check. Alright, and go. Let's see if this chains properly. Yeah, pretty solid little chain right there between adversaries. See? If Garland and Warrior of Light can get along, anybody can get along. But yeah, let's test out his cooldown ability. Again, he does have the W casting of pretty much a lot of his abilities, including his chain, his cooldown ability, which is really nice. So let's try this. Little bit of an HP cost there, but hey, Warrior of Light, can you heal us up? Nice little 8,000 HP heal there. Good job, Warrior of Light. So we're not going to show off his limit burst just yet, but now we have triple casting. So now we can actually just go right in. We can use his Dark Element, then we can use his... Or we can actually just do a nice little triple turn. So we could do Dark Debuff, Dark Element, and then Chaining ability all in one go here. Get some nice damage there. Hey, Warrior of Light wants to help. Oh, that's very nice of you, Warrior of Light. I didn't ask you to do that, but there you go. So, is Garland going to win any prizes for the highest DPS? No. Stat-wise, it seems like he cannot hit as high of an attack as a lot of the other current meta attackers. I mean, really, his attack's base stat is 206. Pots and passive 704, which is not as high. But the highest attack I've seen is close to 3,000 with Super TMRs, obviously. So you can build Garland to be quite a high attack, tanky little DPS. And that's just really great. So let's check out the limit burst. Pretty cool to finally have Chaos in the game. Did as much as his Unchained chaining combo that we did the following turn. So, yeah. And I do believe we could stack the element on it, even if we wanted. Let's try that real quick. Let's just back out. Go right back in. Alright, so first of all, we will just use this ability. Alright, so we have our limit burst charge. That's pretty nice. Now we will go in and do our cool little triple cast. So we will just go... But... Oh, never mind. Let's do that properly. Dark Debuff, Dark Element, and that's not ready yet, so we'll try the slightly weaker version. Alright, so if this actually does pair well with Elemental, then it should do more than 52 million this time. Keep in mind this is a level 1 limit burst, and I have not put attack pots. Yeah, almost 100 million off of that one, and he can potentially get better than that. Again, I haven't put a ton of work yet into my Garland. It is something that I am considering doing, especially because he just seems pretty darn cool for a Dark Element chainer. But overall, what do I think of Garland? Well, I think in terms of a free DPS, this is pretty damn awesome. The way I think of his Super TMR is it's basically like Flame Veritas or a slightly different Folin. Like, it's not a super high, like the best Super TMR you can get out there, but for something that you can earn in the game without spending money, it is pretty darn good. His TMR is pretty good as well. Given that his Super TMR can be achieved, though, you probably just want to equip that and then use different materia on him. He can get a pretty darn high attack stat. He has a really good defense stat, fairly good MP, and pretty nice HP too. He has natural dark resistance, which is good for a lot of trials, as we all know. He also has a ton of chaining options with Flood, Tornado, I don't know if it's just Warrior of Light and him that have the same 10 hit frames, or if it is Stardust Ray, because I'm still not super... I don't have many Stardust Chainers at this point, but if he does have it, then he has Stardust as well, and AT Chaining is his biggest one, which means that he can potentially pair with CG Lightning, he can pair with Bartz, he can pair with any AT Chainer, and so that gives him a lot of options, too, of who to be friends with. But again, his Limit Burst is just really strong, and he has some pretty nice, accessible cooldown abilities, too. So, yeah, in terms of a free unit, I don't really see what there is to complain about. Is he going to be the top tier DPS? No, but I think he's pretty high in terms of some of the damage that he can output. And that is really, really cool for a free unit. I really hope that this continues into the future. I will say that, yes, the FF1 event is needlessly overly grindy, and probably just needs to be more adjusted. If the event points were just higher that you got from farming the event, I don't think I would have any problem with the new Mog King at all. Free units, super cool. This one's pretty damn good, especially for new players. I would say that this is pretty much a great DPS for you to start the game off with. And at the same time, if you're pulling on the Warrior of Light banner, you'll get a great physical tank too. What's to lose? Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Oh, yeah, I didn't show these off. Free-to-play grind, decent TMR, super... I'm not quite used to having these yet. Not the best. TMR is just, it's okay. Nothing overly special, but, I like them. I like them. You know what? Just for that, Chaos, play us out. So cool. See you next time.